Yeah. Passive, really I think this massive. Stable cash flow, lavish. Hard to finance for the masses. This 14% in manufactured housing. Really, all the deals I be doing is kinda hard to keep. I'm counting, not really. 10% for the year. It's clear this the new way. Little competition in my arena. Need a house cost arena. Strategy so boring I didn't even mean to not remind them. Here another check right behind them. 10% passive, the checks I've lined up with collateral. 150 performing notes. I think I can take a sabbatical. Adaptable returns just for the year you earn. 10% passive. In-bank quality notes if the market has you at all concerned. Accredited investors seeking stable returns. One day I'm wrong, being burned. You can let it invest long term and move the work until the earn and burn the page. Turn and earn the pay. Earn, learn the way. Learn how we earn. Passive. Really, I think this massive. Stable cash flow, lavish. Not the finance for the masses. This 14% in manufactured housing. Really, all the deals I be doing is kinda hard to keep on counting. Not really.
Welcome back to the Family Bank here with Mobile Mailbox Money, Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, and Win Mobile Homes. I'm Alden Guajardo, President of Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, Vice President of Win Mobile Homes, and one of the largest operators in niche market manufactured housing in the nation. We have some of my cohorts here today. James Guajardo stepping back into things. He's taking a little back seat today, but I do have Sean Gibson. Sean, if you're available, maybe if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. Hey, this is Sean Gibson with Mobile Mailbox Money and Win Mobile Homes. Yeah, I'm the note specialist here, but I like to call myself kind of a jack of all trades. I'm also an investor, but my true passion is raising capital and helping our investors buy our accredited notes. So excited to be here, excited everybody to learn.
You know, from accredited investors to non-accredited, most people don't know non-accredited investors can buy notes. For the accredited investor, today's brought to you by Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. You could invest today and start earning a 10% return for a 1-year term paid monthly or a 12% return for a 3-year term paid quarterly. AI is here. If you're not adapting to the environment, you're going to get left behind, you know, from marketing strategies to data scraping to video generation to all the above. You know, we're really stepping into things. You know, in all different avenues, and the want for optimization, efficiency, and automation in all of those accords. I even have some of my VA staff here today. You know, with Win Mobile Homes, we've got 10 in rehab, 7 in sales, 5 in management, and about 10 virtual assistants. So we're not just a lender, you know, being here today with Mobile Mailbox Money, Win Mobile Homes, and Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. We appreciate your interaction today. Sunny Finkel it's her birthday today, and she's moving, so she won't be joining us on the meeting, but the chat is open. So any burning questions or need for clarity, or, you know, really just want to get to know a little bit more in depth about something specific, you know, feel free to type that in the chat. We'd love to respond. Maybe if Sean, if you could monitor that today, that would be greatly appreciated. You know, we'd love to talk about the question and just kind of throw it back and forth at the end of the day. But good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mobile Mailbox Money Mastermind. Today, we're going to cover something most investors spend their entire careers never fully understanding, and that's how to become the bank. Not metaphorically, that's literally. And I want to start by telling you exactly where we are right now, because the numbers speak for themselves. In the last 60 days, Silvercrest Opportunity Fund and Win Mobile Homes have seller financed and originated approximately $3 million in Arizona-based note positions backed by affordable housing. And we are currently on track to raise another $1 million in private capital this month. This is not theory. This is not a concept. This is an operating private credit platform in motion. Now, let me show you exactly how it works. Most investors are taught one of two strategies: buy the property and wait for appreciation, or buy the property and collect rent. But both strategies require you to own and manage the asset. Both strategies require the market to cooperate, and both strategies place the operational burden directly on you. We do something fundamentally different. We create the paper. When a family purchases affordable manufactured home through our ecosystem, a promissory note is originated, a payment stream scheduled, a first lien position is secured, and a contractual monthly cash flow is created. We become the lender, we hold the collateral, we control the terms, and the income continues whether the market moves up or down, because people never stop needing affordable housing. It's the floor of human necessity, and is the best foundation every position we originate is built on. Now, let me walk you through where the portfolio stands today before we talk about some of the deals, and I'll even go through a full breakdown of how we become the bank. We currently maintain active performing positions, construction credit, and seller financed note pipeline opportunities representing approximately $300,000 in active capital deployment, alongside over $1 million in seasoned note inventory within the broader portfolio. Our stabilized Tempe performing position alone carries a $100,000 unpaid principal balance, generating $1,000 per month in contractual payments in a first lien position. Beyond that, we have the construction and stabilization credit positions actively converting inventory into seller financed paper across Mesa and Phoenix. These are some ground set homes, some 55 and older communities, newer inventory, used inventory, affordable housing demand, really, all being converted into long duration contractual cash flow. And in our current seller finance pipeline, we have Sunrise Vista, which we'll detail here shortly, and San Estrella Estates, are both pending closing, with projected borrower payments exceeding projected unpaid borrower payments at $1,600 per month combined. This is the difference between owning real estate and controlling the paper attached to it. Now, beyond the active pipeline, Silvercrest currently maintains approximately $1 million in seasoned notes, potentially available for acquisition directly from the portfolio, or you could invest in the portfolio and become a per unit owner share with first lien, Arizona collateral, long duration amortization, payment history available on select positions. Now, here's what I want everyone in this room to understand about the structure. There are 3 ways to participate in what we are building. That's why we are all here. You know, education is great, but at one point you got to move a piece forward. So the first one is through potentially being a part here today of the Liquid Club, someone looking for structure designed for capital, seeking short-term duration and structured returns. That's double-digit interest-bearing credit positions where you extend on a construction loan, getting a first right of refusal of the seller finance note that would inadvertently come available. Those mature likely within 6 months. We drafted at a 1-year term in exchange for a double-digit interest rate. This is more flexible for individuals wanting a short-term position. The second is in the fund, the flagship private credit vehicle. Accredited investors can deploy capital into first lien performing note positions secured by Arizona affordable housing, contractual monthly income, asset-backed collateral, Reg D 506C structured cash flow, and the direct third position available is the acquisition of a seasoned paper performing asset. Individual note positions transferred directly at the unpaid principal balance with a $1,000 assignment fee per note. 3 entry points, 1 ecosystem, all built on the same foundation: first lien collateral, seller financed paper. And let me just get a couple of these people in here. I know we've got some people waiting, and we'll continue. So here's the bottom line. Banks make money by lending capital at the end of the day. And how do we replicate that? We simply built a platform that allows investors to participate in the same side of that transaction. And while most people are still chasing appreciation, we're focused on controlling the payment stream at the end of the day. So thanks everyone for being here. Let's kind of get into the meeting here and get into some of the meat and potatoes of why we call this the live deal flow market. And then I'll go through a in-depth overview of how we've created these positions. Let me just share my screen here. So, what does a collateral file look like at the end of the day for a transaction on a seasoned performing note? Well, this is what it looks like. I can't show you the contracts, can't show you the insurance and taxes and loan documents. Those are, sensitive material. You got people's personal information in there at the end of the day, but that is received upon request. So, say you wanted to participate in a seasoned note. Let me just mute this here. This is immediately available. I went over this last week. It's an interest-only 1-year contract on a $100,000 unpaid balance with a monthly payment of $1,000 a month. So at 100,000, 1-year term, paying $1,000 a month, you step in at the top of the capital stack in Tempe, Arizona. This 3-2 buyer borrower is matching or beating market rent at $100,000, paying about $1,200 a month in their monthly, or about $1,000 a month in their monthly payment, and about $1,000 for their lot rent. So as a 3-bed, 2-bath, they match or beat market rent at $2,000 a month, all in combined. They get insurance on the property, pay their utilities and electrical, and you cherry pick off the top of a consummated, qualified, and cash flowing first lien position originated by Win Mobile Homes. That's license 8670. This is off major cross streets of Kyrene and Baseline, by Arizona Mills Mall. We got tile showers, new laminate flooring in this property. The appliances were included, granite counters, quality collateral, newer windows in this home. And it's a year, I think, 2007. Double check the age. But this is performing in the portfolio currently. If someone wanted to participate, it is a first come, first served equation. So that's a seasoned, established, performing first lien position at $100,000, paying $1,000 a month. Let's continue. We've got lot 200 in Mesa. This is a construction loan on this property where an individual can extend a credit on a first lien position. Same kind of deal. We do kind of the same thing on every property at the end of the day as far as the rehab. So we've done new granite in this property, new shaker cabinets in this home, new laminate flooring in a 55 and older community off major cross streets of Wrecker and Broadway. So as we sell this home, the individual that extends $30,000 in exchange for $250 a month, they'll get a first lien position, but also the potential first right of refusal of a note that would potentially inadvertently come available on this property. About 95% of our transactions go seller finance. So, what does that look like at the end of the day? Say they bought it for $35,000. They put, say, $3,000 down with $2,000 in taxes, insurance, and closing fees due at closing. So their unpaid principal proposed balance, hypothetically, when these people do end up buying this house, is a 20-year term on a $32,000 unpaid balance. Your payment goes from, what was it? It was $250 a month to $397.93. You paid $32,000. You took a 20-year term, and you get paid with a first lien collateral $397.93 from Jane Doe that ends up qualifying for this home. When she qualifies, what does that look like? It's basically some form of a rental application combined with FHA style lending requirements. So debt to income ratios, Dodd-Frank compliance, and they own the house, right? So no maintenance, management, insurance, and taxes. And on 32,000, let's say you bought the whole note, these notes don't really come available all that often under 50. So really gem kind of component here. Say you bought this entire position, you owned it within your portfolio, and they paid for the full 20-year terms. If you go to a summary on the mortgage calculator, Carl's mortgage calculator, or really any mortgage calculator, those total payments received is $95,000 and $95,502.40. The total interest received over the lifetime of this loan is $63,500. I can teach you to double your money using a $32,000 investment, literally doubling your money buying this transaction, right? If it were to fulfill through the full 20-year payments, at the end of the day, you effectively doubled your money with one transaction and not have to look at your brokerage account or talk to a financial advisor. You just owned that position. You quite literally become the bank and you double your money in a 20-year term with no operational hardship. Say on this same note, that would potentially come available. Say this were a consummated transaction like lot 347, I can pledge that same note for a 1-year term via hypothecation, which we kind of teach here and there, but I won't get too into the weeds on that. This is immediately available. Like I said, $30,250 a month, first lien credit for a 1-year term, interest only. That's immediately available. We did a Longhaven deal the other day with an investor. We've rented and sold 2 of these. We got 9 left. So these transactions are unique as FC200, and the rest of the 9 are actually all the same home. So they're brand new, 2023, never been lived in. These properties are for sale, either seller finance. We may rent them as people come to the table. But at a $40,000 position on one of these 9, you get your first lien position at $40,000, paying $333.33 a month, $333.33 a month for a 1-year term, interest only, and that's a first lien credit immediately available. These are uniquely placed in the West Valley in a institutionally owned mobile home park, gated pools. They're updating the amenities and things of that nature, and brand new AC units on these properties. It's tough to find a brand new unit. These homes, literally replacement costs, they paid $75,000 to bring these properties in and sold them to us at a deep loss within those transactions. So we went from interest only, consummated qualified cash flowing 1-year term at $1,000 a month. We have a 1-year term likely to mature within the next 3 months because someone's going to buy this turnkey property. Lot 200 at $30,000, paying $250 a month, and A257 here, the 2-1 in the West Valley in Phoenix for $40,000, paying $333 a month. Let's continue here to our next life cycle of the ecosystem, which is now a property that we have in escrow. This home, if I don't get a bite on this meeting, will be absorbed into the fund. We've already made arrangements, already have the capital. So it's a first come, first serve situation. The chat is open. This 2-2, let me double check real quick how many beds and baths Sunrise Vista is pending. Lot 17 in Sunrise Vista in the Mesa market. This is a 3-2 that we rehabbed, 3-bed, 2-bath, turnkey, located 300 South Val Vista, Mesa and Broadway, in one of the lower lot rent communities in the valley. Lot rent in this park is $650, comparison across the streets like $1,000. So you got deep value within that transaction. Lot 17 with a proposed sale price of $49,500. They're putting $5,000 down with an unpaid balance of $44,500. their monthly payment is $558.84 for a 20-year term. And if you don't have a mortgage calculator, I tell everybody just download it. It's free. You're doing yourself a disservice. You could probably reverse calculate, depending on your education, on how to find a return on investment within these transactions. So at $558.84 a month for a 20-year term. Say you didn't want 20 years. Well, you could invest in the fund and get a 1-year term with still a double-digit interest rate. If you are accredited, that allows you across stability of 30 positions currently performing in the Arizona market. Say you were non-accredited, really with IRA money, solo 401k money, and this is maybe the first transaction that you may be doing with us. You don't want a 20-year term. Completely understandable. What we do in that position with one note, one investor, is called hypothecation, which means to pledge an asset in order to garnish capital investment at $44.09 for a 1-year term. That monthly payment hypothecated is $374 a month. So you sacrificed about just shy of $180 a month, about $180 a month, and you got 19 years of liquidity. But also, Win Mobile Homes, that hypothecates the note, stands behind the position. So for whatever reason, this home, this note, this first lien position goes non-performing, it's my note. So it's up to my responsibility to repossess, reperform, and ultimately keep paying the investor. At some point, if a bunch of risk were come to the table, we would start an interest accrual equation, but you wouldn't lose your capital. We'd be held to fill that position. Whereas in comparison, if someone were to buy this whole note, make the full yield within their portfolio, and they pulled it out of mine and they bought it for theirs, they get our back office at cost. So eviction attorneys, that's $750. A sales agent, that's $4,000 for the sale. Likely 2 months in back rent, that's about $2,000. So for $7,000, $7,500, outside of any rehab needing to be done on the property, you reseller financed the home, found another qualified buyer borrower, and ultimately consumed that note back into your consummated cash flowing and qualified portfolio position, right? So 2 options, really 3 options out of those to do a transaction depending on what your comfortability is. Am I going to sell a note to just anybody? No, I could, but at the end of the day, it's got to fit for the potential investor that's coming to the table. If someone doesn't have much of any note investment background, real estate background, doesn't know how to foreclose on a property, that's probably not a position for you at the end of the day. This is an investment. There is risk in investing. Disclaimer, at the end of the day, there's no sure win, but to know, how well fit you are for that potential strategy. Does it make sense or not? And how can we mitigate risk as much as we can upfront to have a successful equation? Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to air it out a little bit, give you a moment, type it in the chat. Most people get blown away at what hypothecation is. That puts the power in your hands at the end of the day to go and leverage your relationships, not have to start a fund. It's $20,000 just to start a fund. If you really, any way you shake it, you could do a crowdfunding, that's $15,000. But really, to get started, that's how we got started in the business, hypothecation. And that word came into my realization going to note investment conferences at the end of the day. So that's just free education. And if you're wanting to execute on that, say you didn't take a formal education to ultimately get those documents, I may provide them to you depending on who you are and how you operate and what your background is. I'm trying to put people in business at the end of the day. So let's continue on the meeting here. Got some late joiners. Appreciate you being here today. Let's just kind of talk about what exactly it looks like to quite literally become the bank. and how we find homes, how we source homes, and why we're main corporate sponsors of Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. I gave this whole breakdown, the full one, to a class of creative finance specialists at ASRIA, and I'm going to give you the short version. I think I've talked about this once or twice, but it's good to kind of set the landscape. Why is manufactured housing such a need right now? Why should that be a position in your portfolio? Why is it literally a generational opportunity? Well, let me tell you, because quite literally, the middle has disappeared. People are too qualified to rent forever, and they're not qualified enough for conventional financing. With buyers from 580 to 680 credit scores and ITIN borrowers being quite literally locked out of the system, that to me sounds like an opportunity more than a hardship, depending on where you pivot within the financial market. With median home prices, I think now this was done in 2024 was $470,000. It's still around $400,000 in Phoenix, with the average mortgage rate around 6%, and the average mortgage is $2,700 to $3,000 a month. If you take a debt to income ratio, FHA about 50%, someone with little to no debt would have to make over $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month just to even qualify for a mortgage. There's a housing deficit. I don't care what anybody says. Builders aren't being financed. There is some multifamily going up at the end of the day, but material and labor over the past 5 years have doubled. And in addition to material and labor, there has been an increase in pricing for permits and things of that nature. Arizona's the move to state. We got a net migration since 2024 of 55,000 people and projected growth to 2050, which this came out before the data centers started encroaching in the environment, of about 2 million individuals moving to the market. Manufactured housing is the most affordable path to home ownership by every metric available. The national occupancy rate is 94% nationally, not here in Arizona. That's nationally. That's Alabama, that's Ohio, that's California, that's Florida, that's Texas. That's one of the higher occupancy rates from Q2 in 2025, from NorthMax, Skyview, Advisors, and Urban Institute for quotes at the end of the day. That's a high occupancy rate with the same property net growth of 10%. So it looks like a viable solution. Arizona lot rent has increased. That's something to pay attention to and price into our risk mitigation. But also that shows the institutional appetite into this ecosystem. Institutions want to own mobile home parks. They want to own hundreds of them and ultimately collect those payments. And we run side by side with those individuals within this market. The cumulative appreciation. How many people think every mobile home depreciates? I've said it before. I've questioned it before. Well, here's your statistic. Since the year 2000, the cumulative appreciation of manufactured housing has been 200%. And I saw another statistic that since year 2019, manufactured housing has actually out appreciated single family residents. That sounds blasphemous, I think, to a lot of people, but to understand that there's a new day and age for housing. This is not your grandmother's manufactured housing anymore. This is a new, actually palatable alternative for housing, creating higher purchase prices, but also more demand given the financial market. 22 million Americans are living in mobile homes, and investors put their nose up on manufactured housing because of lack of education. They don't know how to operate. They don't know how to do title transactions. They don't know how to do a repossession. That's completely understandable. If I didn't know how to operate in a market, I would probably say the same thing. When at the end of the day, the people that are pioneers in quite literally every investment ever created, the Oracle of Omaha, Omaha has made the biggest bet in manufactured housing. So if Warren Buffett will actually invest and manufacture and cultivate an ecosystem in manufactured housing, you should probably pay attention at the end of the day, because not only does he manufacture the unit, he also finances the unit with 21st Mortgage, who's the largest lender. He'll securitize the asset via Vanderbilt Mortgage. He'll own the communities via Sun Communities, and he'll also so those are like the 4 or 5 businesses that he's cultivating within this strategy. Guy's making like 4 or 5 payments on the same house. He probably owns an insurance company and a warranty company at the end of the day. So to overlook this asset right now is a bad move. The market data facilitates that this is a generational opportunity. There's not much competition. There's not many people that publicly know how to conduct these types of transactions. And the affordability has never been at a wider gap ever in history. You could save 5 times your money as an end user buying a mobile home, manufactured housing, opposed to single family. There's a supply constraint. There's there's no net new mobile home parks coming to the table. Why? Because most markets have a negative connotation for manufactured housing. They feel like it's super low income, a blight within the industry. When mobile home parks close down, there's not enough new coming to the table because of lack of permittability and zoning and things of that nature. That's just putting further constraint into needing a solution into used inventory in existing mobile home parks to revitalize that area, revitalize those units, and provide a form of financing. Did you know that mobile homes and manufactured housing is the top real estate asset class during economic downturns? What are we currently in? We're in a troubling financial market. Where do people go when they need to downsize, when they need to liquidate? They go to the more affordable options. They're not moving up, they're moving down. With 10% of housing in Arizona being manufactured housing, that's just a no-brainer. So how do we find homes? How do we find these homes, put them in a bow at the end of the day for your passive capital investment? Well, we'll buy these units from communities. They call us direct and give us first right of refusal at Calland Properties, Kingsley Management, Sun Communities, Warren Buffett, and a couple others that we have close relationships, institutions that recognize the value that we provide. I can tell you from firsthand experience that we've saved Calland Properties $5 million. Drop the mic. Purchase prices, how are we buying homes? We're buying them from $250 all the way up to $90,000 and flipping those homes either with a rehab budget. We'll put 10 to 50,000. We've even put as much as 80,000 into units. Do we want to do that all the time? That's not the case, but we want to make sure that we're pushing a quality, affordable product with an all-in basis of 40 to 75,000. So we can exit and net about 30% after commissions and closing fees in Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, Glendale, and Apache Junction. I'm not in the business of just buying a house to flip. I want the note. I'm buying a note opportunity. A note, a promissory note, is quite literally the road and definition of financial freedom. You want to go live in Tahiti, you want to go live in the Philippines, you want to go have more time with your friends and family, spend more time with your kids, stop worrying about phone calls on Christmas. That's the real hardship associated with what most people are taught and where they're taught to invest their money, to keep looking at a brokerage account, keep having to manage a management company. This is it, people. This is really the blueprint of where to find gold out in the market and why we deem this a generational opportunity. We buy from mobile home park managers, dealers, direct marketing, all the above. So what does a live deal kind of look like? We went through multiple transactions that are immediately available. Lot 17 is going to close here at the end of this meeting. So, our all-in acquisition, just hypothetically, kind of look at the numbers and actualize what our profit's going to be on transactions like this. Say we bought it for 18,000, we put 32K into it, and we had rehab, carry costs, lot rent, in a 90-day rehab. So our total all in is 55K, and we resold the property at $80,000, $83,000 with a $12,000 down payment being an unpaid balance. Oh, I'm sorry. They paid $95,000, put 12 down, unpaid balance $83,000 for a 20-year term. They're paying $1,000 a month on an $83,000 position. What's your 1% rule on $83,000? Drop another mic. Look at the golden nugget of how you position your capital, not in a different strategy of housing. You're still in housing, but you position yourself at the top of the capital stack, and you make more with less in a strategy just like this. 83,000 paying 1,080 a month. That's literally life-changing money. You do that 5 times and now you've supplemented your retirement income, quite literally. So why is your principal protected? Why, how am I protected? Why am I protected? What are the checks and balances put into place to make sure that it has a potential for success? This is an opportunity. There is risk in investment, but what kind of built-in guards and bumpers do we have built into the strategy to make sure that we're built for a successful program? Well, we collect a down payment at the end of the day. You have immediate equity walking into the property. You own that position for less than what it would be for sale on the regular market. In addition, the buyer borrower goes through 2 rounds of underwriting. So not only do they go through the community itself, they also go through Dodd-Frank compliance, which means they have to fit specific benchmarks in order to facilitate the financing. If you raise capital and you're on this meeting, this is verbiage for your investors to play hypothecation, to put this deal in front of them, to make it actually actualize and let them digest what kind of deal this is. This is not somewhere where we sat down with Joe and signed a promissory note and just wrote it on a napkin at the end of the day. These people went through formal processes to make that position not only a risk mitigated transaction, but now we're operating like a bank. Quite literally, because of the processes that we take, the same asset that's non-bank quality becomes bank quality because of the process that it goes through. So they hit 600 plus credit score or ITIN number accepted, no past criminal convictions. They could have an eviction or conviction criminal and own a single family home. No past criminal, no open bankruptcies, no past evictions, and verifiable income. And after they go through that round with the park, third party, I have no say in that whatsoever. They go through a secondary underwriting in order to facilitate the financing. So they qualify as an upstanding citizen with the community, almost like an HOA, and also go through Dodd-Frank compliance through another third-party underwriter, and to make sure that they can afford the note, licensed mortgage officer, third-party underwriter, 2 rounds of underwriting, right? They go through the ringer in order to make sure they can qualify. Listen, they're buying a house at the end of the day, and to make sure that we're following the rules outlaid by the CFPB is of utmost importance. Let's talk about our last deal of the day here. We have lot 116, and I think I had this wrong on my update here. They have an $85,000 price point. Excuse me. 85,000. This borrower is putting $15,000 down. 15 G's. They're paying $870 a month. $870.46 for a 20-year term. Their monthly payment totals like $1,950. They own this 3-bed, 2-bath in Santa Estrella Mobile Home Park. Santa Estrella, I think we've done probably 20 flips, and I have another one actually coming available. To know that we have vast amount of deal flow. I have a lot of individuals. We're getting this. It's turnkey. I need to get some updated photos. But I have a lot of people come to the table. Oh, I'm converting money in an IRA. I don't know when it's going to be available. Oh, I'm converting money from treasury bills. Oh, I'm moving my solo 401k. Listen, we've got enough deals in our pipeline to make sure that everyone has a transaction when they have capital. It's tough to align. It's tough to line up liquidity. It's tough to line up deal flow. Well, I've got a deal for you at the end of the day at 70,000, paying $870 a month for a 20-year term. And on a hypothecation, let's say you were going to pledge this note at 70,000, the unpaid balance times your proposed interest rate divided by 12. Interest only is 583.33 a month. So you cherry pick a first lien position here today at 70,000, paying 583.33 a month, and you could do that with your investor potentially. Leverage your relationship, figure out how and what kind of return your investor is wanting, and roll from there. So that's what we do. We double underwrite. Had to pull in a live example quickly for you to be able to understand that this is not just a presentation. This is the live deal flow market. Double underwritten, bank quality positions immediately available. We structure for compliance. We structure the note. It's licensed, bonded, and insured as the largest dealer of manufactured housing in Arizona. What does it look like when you become the bank and stop buying single family to rent or stop buying multifamily to rent? Your maintenance, your taxes, your vacancy risk, your management, your tenants, the collateral, all have different implications. There's no challenge in managing a note portfolio unless the risk does come to fruition. You do want to make sure payments are being received, but in comparison to a rental strategy, your maintenance and management go down by 98%. You have 2% left. You focus on the fifth to see if a payment comes in. And when it does, you're pretty much done for the month. That sounds like a no-brainer to me. And you make more at the end of the day. So, what kind of exits come with a note portfolio? How do you exit a note? What are your options? If I own a 20-year note and I need to send my daughter to college, or I want to go on vacation, or I need to buy my wife a ring or something, anything, there's multiple exits within a note investment portfolio. You could sell a note on a lump sum equation on the secondary market and recapitalize your position, exit that position, and someone else owns it within their portfolio. You could also sell a partial. You want to be careful with selling partials because it could be construed as a securities. Unless you're putting it into a trust and selling beneficial interests, that gets super high level of a strategy at the end of the day. Definitely need some education. Would recommend the Note Investor University with Patrick and Desi. You could sell a partial. You could sell the whole note. You could hypothecate that note. Did you know you don't even have to own the note yet to hypothecate a note? You could see a note here today. Go talk to Uncle John or Aunt Jenny, who has 10 million bucks, and say, hey, Uncle John, would you take an 8% return for performing collateral in a 1-year term interest only? Boom. You just made 6% on your money with OPM at the end of the day. You could do that later on. Your performing note, you could sell, you could hypothecate that, bring capital in. You could, super nimble in that accord. So how does an investor here today enter into a contract at the end of the day? You got a whole note purchase. You could get a hypothecation, not a fractional interest, or invest in the fund. This is a qualified product. Most people don't know that you could use your IRA or solo 401k as a investment vehicle for tax deferred or tax free investment strategy, stacking cash flowing assets for your retirement account. And to find returns like this is virtually non-existent with this low of a risk in monthly distributions. So, risk mitigated. We've gone over the first lien, collateral, and all the above. Debt to income ratio similar to FHA, from zero to deal. At the end of the day, what if you were in your market wanting to replicate what we're doing? At the end of the day, I wish you good luck, because it's been a lot of hard fought, sweat, tears, potential lawsuits from mobile home park managers that had no recourse. At the end of the day, would love to talk to you personally at the end of the day to see how we can help you throw gas on your strategy without having to go across the same hardships and challenges that we've endured over the past 8 years. You want to form an LLC, form a bank account or a trust. You want to interview 3 RMLOs. Shout out to Call the Underwriter and Dan Deppen, and set up a servicing account with potentially automatic funds transfer services, depending on what market that you're located in. At the end of the day, you may need specialized licensing in order to own a note, a debt within your portfolio. So important to do your due diligence. Arizona, that's not needed. Depending on what state, you may need a specific licensed servicing company or a debt collector's license. All areas to check with your attorney. We drive mobile home parks. I used to drive mobile home parks daily, looking for sale by owners, talking to Uncle Joe that's got his house for sale, seeing if he has a buyer that needs financing. We structure a cash purchase from Uncle Joe and sell it to Jane at an increased price point, make a margin and seller finance that home, then either hypothecate the note, raise it in the fund, all areas of opportunity. Used to send a bunch of direct mail. We are blessed enough to have such a presence in the market that people call us every day of the week for selling their house. I think I shop 5 deals a day right now. And that's all from really online advertising and relationships that we've built in the business. Week number 3, analyze incoming leads as you ultimately market homes for sale. Walk 3 properties, submit 2 offers. You should always be making offers on homes if you're trying to replicate what we're doing. Listen, if you make enough stupid offers, enough crazy discounted offers, at the end of the day, something's bound to hit. Conduct your due diligence, sign closing docs, fund and record title. That's what we do. At the end of the day, we've put all of this ecosystem into one roof for you to benefit from. So we build the machine for you to buy the output, and we fund the factory. We don't manufacture homes, but we manufacture paper. We manufacture return on investment and passive cash flow with a bow. So that's a little synopsis of what we do on a day-to-day basis. I've been rambling, I think, for an hour. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Please put them in the chat. Just air it out for a moment here. Appreciate your interaction today. We're getting some hearts, getting some thumbs up. So we did have one question. I'm just going to say it aloud. I have a quick question. If I purchase a property from you guys in cash, and I understand that the title and other documents will follow afterward, but the title is currently being processed under my name, can I still request a change to change it, or for it to be placed under a different name instead? I'm looking for 2 properties somewhere in the Phoenix area. You could. We do have power of attorneys that get conducted at title closing. So say I seller financed lot 200, right? And I consummated the sale tomorrow, really say lot 17, because that's closing tomorrow. 17, I think it's 2 or 3 power of attorneys. It closes, and next week I want to change title. I want to change the lien or change the entity, or maybe quite literally, I closed the transaction and I sold that note for more a week later because it's actually a closed transaction. I sell it at 10%, a 14% note, advantageous, right? That could happen. And I want to change that lien position. You can. And if you have proper documents that have been originated at closing, the thought of trying to go back to a homeowner for title change and things like that, they're going to ask you how you're scamming them, or what you're doing to screw them over or whatever it may be. It becomes super sour. So when we close that transaction, we do include power of attorneys due for the lender. That way they can exit their position. They could re-leverage that position. They could sell it to another investor. People want their collateral. And what is the collateral? It's a secured lien position recorded on the title. And that's facilitated with the proper documents in order to execute a title change, a lien change, or whatever it may be. It is important to know that that buyer-borrower cannot make any change to title without notifying the lender. Whereas in single family, you could do like a subject to change. There's some kind of under the cuff, under the radar things that people can do to transfer title. They could put it in a trust. With manufactured housing, they have to get proper notification to the lien holder, and it's actually a wet signature that's required in order to accommodate a transaction like that. So it's actually more secure than a residential loan at the end of the day. Great questions, great comments. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to put my information in the chat here, my personal cell phone number. That's just one of the benefits of joining these meetings. If I can type correctly. This is streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So if you want to go back and view the previous vlogs, the podcasts, really the mastermind we've been doing for, I think it's been a year. We're probably going over $5 to $7 million in transactions, just showing the track record at the end of the day. If you have yet to follow our social media, we do a tremendous amount of online advertising, to say the least. Just orient my screen here. Whoops. On YouTube, we've got 1,000 videos on YouTube. I'm one subscriber away from 200. One of you guys please subscribe to my YouTube. That number is growing. Social media has been a blessing, to say the least. We've done 400 transactions. That's $30 million in manufactured home transactions. I have park managers that see my jingles. I have park owners that see my marketing. I have individuals that just, passively view. I've gotten $1 million investment from online. I've gotten, multiple investors that have just reached out randomly from the online exposure, from the utilization of artificial intelligence to marketing strategies to adjacent branding with Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. We are the main corporate sponsor of Azria Venue 8600, second Monday of the month. Get your ticket today, June 8th. Actually, if you're in the business, can't see if I can't click on this. Jeff Watson. Jeff Watson is a renowned private lending attorney. I've met him at multiple note investment conferences, from Dealmaker to the Note Expo to all the above. That's June 8th, second Monday of every month. We'll be there. We'll be, have a quick 2-minute spiel about what we do and how we provide passive smashing returns to capital investors. Silvercrest Opportunity Fund is our accredited fund. Feel free to go view our credit strategies tab on the website to get a little bit, more intimately involved. We will build this to a $50 million portfolio with Reg D 506C Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. We market under mobile mailbox money as education, teach you to leverage your relationships and ultimately get a passive income generating real estate investment strategy. And I've got 2 books on Amazon. I used AI to write 2 books. I've been training my artificial intelligence diligence for the past 3 years and used that information to put it out as a live checklist, almost to replicate what we're doing, the complete mobile mailbox money guide on Amazon, and our passive investors book for mailbox money secured. You can Google my name or put my name on Amazon, Alden Guajardo, and those will pop up. Win Mobile Homes, we're the largest dealer of manufactured housing in Arizona. We'll do close to 75 transactions this year. That's 75 new families, retirees, and individuals really just under the average 40-year age of an average first-time home buyer right now here in Arizona. $30 million, 400 doors, quite literally changing the landscape for affordable housing in Arizona's here in the market. That's what we're doing. Any final thoughts, concerns, need for clarity? Now's your time. Oh, shout out to Mr. Ethan. We got your email marketing. We'll subscribe to your YouTube channel right after. So there's 200. Ring the bell. At the end of the day, we are much appreciative of you guys being here today. This is really, at the end of the day, this is all for you in the want for financial freedom, taking what we provide and bring to the table for you to arbitrage and use your relationships.
I was sitting across from a man who had worked at the same job for 22 years, done everything right, saved carefully, invested conservatively, and he looked at me and said, "I feel like I am running out of time." He was not broke. He was trapped in the gap between what his capital earned and what his life actually cost. That gap has a name: the spread. And the people who understand the spread do not work for money. They architect it. Here is how it works. You sell or finance a home. You set the rate. You control the terms. You originate the note. You become the bank. That note is now a performing asset, a payment stream, monthly, fixed, collateralized. Now you hypothecate it, pledge it to a capital partner. They receive a bank quality return, structured, secured, documented. You keep the spread between what the note yields and what you pay them, 2 to 6%. On capital that was never yours to begin with. That is interest arbitrage. That is other people's money generating perpetual returns inside a structure you built. I went back to that man and explained this. He leaned forward and said, "So the note pays you while you sleep. Your capital partner gets their return, and you keep the difference," I said, "every single month." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I spent 22 years selling my time. This thing sells money." That is the realization. You are not arbitraging capital. You are arbitraging time. The note works. The spread compounds. The system runs. And you get back the one thing the job was always costing you: your life. Mobile mailbox money is where you learn how to build this. Silvercrest is where accredited investors step into a qualified operator's existing platform. Bank quality returns. Real collateral, already working. You do not need to build what took me years to build. You just need to step into the right position and let the spread do what it was always designed to do: work while you live.
Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next week. God is good all the time. No matter what happened yesterday or the day before, today's a new day. Take one step in front of the other and take your steps into financial freedom. Thanks so much for being here. See you next time. That's what we do.